Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The topic of my term paper is the comparative study between fee and modern taxation. The overall critical analysis of my term paper is how fee, which comes under Islamic taxation, should be given more importance as compared to modern taxation, since fee has way more benefits to the society. I will start by explaining the concept of Islamic taxation and modern taxation. Tax is a compulsory financial charge imposed on a taxpayer to fund government spending and various public expenditures. The concept of taxation has existed since the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. According to the Western perspective, taxes are considered to be the most important revenue as it is raised for government spending and other public expenses. Because American economist Richard A. Musgrave explained that the purpose of taxation can be distinguished between three objectives, which are resource allocation, income redistribution, and economic stability. On the other hand, when it comes to the concept of Islamic taxation, Islam and Khilafah places a great emphasis on wealth rather than income, meaning taxes are imposed only on those who have excess money, while those with no excess money are ignored. Plus, taxes are solely collected to raise the funds required to meet Baitul Mal's shortfall in the expenditures of six different areas, such as the expenditure of bond jihad and what is necessary for it, expenditure of military industries, spending on the poor, needy, and the wayfarers, and much more. The Islamic jurisprudence has recognized three types of revenue collected by the government under Islamic taxes, which are zakah, sadaqah, and fee. Fee was the property and the money obtained to confiscation without violence. That is, if the unbelievers refused to fight or opposed the race forcefully. Under fee, there are many types of revenues collected like ushur, kharaj, sadaqatul fitr, jizya, and more. The term fee used in the Quran and Sunnah refers to the war benefits received from an opponent who has laid down weapons before real fighting has taken place, whether in the form of land, tribute, or indemnities. It was proven from the Prophet's Sunnah and practice that fee was managed by Prophet himself as the President of the Islamic Republic. The distribution of fee is addressed to Allah and His Messenger in its whole. However, Islamic scholars such as Abdul Rahman, Zubair, and Bilal believe that the acquired land should be split among the soldiers in the same way that other type of booty is shared. In contrast, Hadrat Umar believed that these territories should be kept under state authority as a consistent source of revenue for the government to cover expenses such as war and salary of soldiers. One of the taxes that comes under fee is ushur, which is a tax based on agricultural product and can be paid either in kind or cash. According to the Sunnah, the rate of ushur is 5% of the agricultural product on artificially irrigated areas and 10% of the agricultural product on territories that gains only from rain and groundwater. Ushur on agricultural produce is paid when the crops are harvested or when the fruits are carried away, and it is paid by farmers or whoever owns the product at the moment. Furthermore, if taxes are not paid on time, the taxpayer is responsible for any damage or destruction. However, no ushur is needed if the crops are destroyed by natural disasters or thievery. The next tax under fee is Kharaj, which is defined as a type of land tax acquired during the war and which the owner had the right to cultivate. Even though the Prophet has executed this tax during the War of Khaybar, Kharaj was introduced during the era of Umar bin al-Khattab and was mainly imposed on agricultural field within Iraq, Egypt, Sawad, and Syria. Kharaj was committed toward military conflict property that was still being harvested by the owners, but they had to pay the government's tax. This has caused Kharaj to be the major source of revenue to the government during the era. Also, a verse from the Quran explains how from Kharaj, the six groups of people mentioned in the Quran, which are God, the messenger, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, and the wayfarer, were given one fifth of the spoils, and the balance was distributed among the troops. In addition, tax varies from land to land and place to place. In accordance with many criteria like tax based on a year, percentage of harvest, and even fertility of the land. Moreover, the recognized tax under fee is jizya, which is a personal tax imposed on non-believers living under the Islamic government in exchange for the security received from them. And it was implemented since the era of Islamic governance by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina as a way to attract non-believers to convert to Islam. During the early era of Islam, the amount of jizya was unknown as it was calculated based on their economic situation. However, during the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab, he was able to set some rules relating to jizya, which are non-believers who were wealthy had to pay at least 48 dirhams annually, while non-believers who were poor but still able to work were required to pay 12 dirhams annually. However, some groups were exempted from paying this tax, like women, slaves, and the poor. Furthermore, the tax under Fay is Sadaqatul Fitr, which is a poll tax that is paid at the end of Ramadan. This tax must be paid by everyone who is competent unless said otherwise by the Islamic standards. Also, this tax must be paid by the taxpayers on behalf of all dependents who are unable to pay it for themselves, even if the dependents do not stay together with them. The sum of this tax is paid based on its nature or dollar value. Next, modern taxation is described as a mandatory payment made to the government based on the tax basis assets. During the early times, taxes have been imposed on an individual due to covering the expenses of the government, but it has expanded for so much more reasons nowadays. Modern taxation is divided into two types. First is the proportional principle, meaning the taxation must be equivalent to the income. And this statement has been supported by Adam Smith because he sees it as the most equitable way for the government to raise revenue. On the other hand, the progressive principle believes that the amount of tax to be paid rises faster than the rate of increase in income, and this can be related to the concept of ability to pay, which causes inequality of income among individuals to exist. In addition, the Western thinker Adam Smith has even explained the four canons of taxation in his book called The Wealth of Nations. According to my analysis, I compared how the tax revenue collected from fee under Islamic taxation and modern taxation are being spent. And based on my evaluation, the purpose of imposing both types of taxation on an individual is to raise revenue for government expenditure for the welfare of the country in terms of providing public goods and services to the citizens. However, the intention of the government in spending revenue collected from modern taxation stops only in improving the welfare of citizens and boosts economic growth, while the intention of the government in spending revenue collected from fee also considered the growth of Islam, following the rules stated in the Quran and Sunnah, as well as the rewards received by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. This is because the revenue earned by the government through modern taxation will only be spent for mandatory reasons like the national defense system and healthcare, while fee under Islamic taxation collected by the government will be used on the six areas of expenditure on Baytul Mal in order to help in the improvement of Islamic Ummah. For instance, the tax revenue used on the expenditure upon jihad and what is necessary for it. This is because military forces must update themselves with the latest and advanced weapons, which need sufficient spending from the Islamic State to protect their land from occupation, avoiding the spread of kuffar in the Muslim world, and also to assist the state in spreading Islam all across the world. So, this proves fee under Islamic taxation contributes more in the approach towards building an Islamic moral economy for a country as compared to the contribution of modern taxation. However, the rate of tax imposed on an individual must be fair and based on their financial situation so that it will not be a burden to them as this is strictly prohibited according to Islam. The overall concept of taxation helps in moving a step forward towards one of the United Nations 11th Sustainable Development Goals, which is sustainable cities and communities, in order to create cities and human habitation more secure and long lasting. This means that we need a modern and cleverly built environment that generates secure, affordable, and resilient communities with ecological and culturally stimulating livelihoods for all of us to continue and thrive. In conclusion, even though both types of taxation aims to raise revenue for government expenditure for the welfare of the country, the imposition of fee must be given more priority to be practiced by the government as compared to modern taxation because the tax revenue spent according to fee under Islamic taxation is more beneficial to a lot of groups of people and also helps in the development of the Ummah of Islam, while still helps in achieving one of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is sustainable cities and communities by the year 2030. That's all from me. Thank you very much.